Well, hi everyone. Welcome back to YouTube channel. I'm recording this video because, if you've seen the previous one, because I made the fatal mistake of in OBS, don't use window record because it doesn't capture the little sort of option pop-ups anyway. So we're re-recording it. And hopefully we can be even more efficient with our time this time too. So quick little preview, this is what we're going to end up doing because it's what we created in the first video that we made. So we'll end up with this as our final product. So without further ado, let's get cracking. So first of all, in fact, let me just quickly move that over there just so got it as a reference guide, and let's go. Okay, so first of all, we want to create a trades tab. So trades, let's call this trades. Oops, let's call this trades. And then this is where we're going to record all of the purchases and sales of our shares. So I am able to export this from my broker fairly easily in a CSV file. And I'm sure your broker will have something similar that you can export, or maybe you've recorded your own, kept your own data and recorded it. The way I do mine, and it's entirely up to you how you want to record yours, I have the date, the name of the share, the ticker, the number of shares I purchased, the share cost, the amount of brokerage I paid, total cost including brokerage and the cost of the shares, and then I do track in here the market price per share and then the market total value, it's all in one table. So I'll just grab all of my purchase data. Now I am also only using USD data in this video to make things simple. In my personal dashboard, I do have to worry about currency, so I do have some extra columns, but if you're, I think most people are just trading in one particular exchange, so it's pretty simple, but it's not that hard actually to include extra columns. Now, a few little tricks in case you don't know is if you've only got the ticker, for example, and not the share name, so what you can do, a little great thing in Excel, is you can type in here the ticker code, BZUN, for example, and you can go up here into data, and then see up here in stock type, you've got a stock as a type of data, hit stocks, and then it will give you the name here. And what you can also do is, I'll just go into here, is change. If you go into here, on the right here, you'll see it's got a selection. So sometimes there might be more than one ticker code depending on the exchange, and I trade in Australian stock market quite a bit. So some of the tickers we have in Australia do replicate US ones. So sometimes you've got to pick the not the first choice it makes, and that's how you can pick if there's more than one choice. So and what's great about this as well is that we can for example, what we can do over here, so just I'll really quickly do one row just so I've got it. So purchase cost is obviously what you bought, brokerage is the cost you paid. The purchase cost is really easily just the cost per share, multiplied by the number of shares that you purchased. We'll put that in brackets just so it's nice and clean. And then we want to add on the brokerage that we paid, so it's a total cost of what we paid. I can copy that down. And then the market price per share, what we can do is if we do a plus in here and then click on the share name over here, you see how it gives us a drop down list of the different, I guess, attributes we can pull off that thing. So I want in here the actual price. Let's go with price, and then we hit enter, and you see now it's given us an actual current market price, which will update update as the price changes, which is great. And then here, all we have to do for the total, obviously, is just the market price, the current market price per share multiplied by how many shares we have. And that gives us a market value of that particular purchase that we did. Because obviously, if you're anything like me, you'll be doing multiple purchases of the same share. So this is a good way of just keeping track of how much that parcel that you purchased is actually worth. Now let's also go to the end. So end and down, and then Control T, and we'll convert this into a table. And let's call this table, let's call it trades. Okay, and off it goes. So that's the first table done. So it's got our trades. I'm just going to actually also get rid of the formatting that I copied across. It's this one here. No fill. So that's nice and neat and tidy. So there we go. So okay, trades table is done. So next up, the next one we want to worry about probably is the portfolio. So let's call this next tab portfolio. Can't spell. Portfolio. Yep, portfolio. Now, the way I do mine, which looks pretty easy. So a little trick as well here too. What you can do is once you've got all your trades in, So the portfolio tab will hold one row per share, but obviously there's multiple purchases of each share within the trades tab potentially. So what you can do is use a little Excel function called unique, unique, and then open brackets. And then if I just grab that column of all of my trades and hit enter, what it does, it's now given me a unique list of all of the shares. So it's obviously going to be shorter, right, because I've purchased shares more than once. But it's given us a unique list of those individual ones, which is perfect because we can now grab this and paste that over here. Paste special, we'll paste it as values. And see, now we have a consolidated list of all of our particular companies that we have purchased. So I'm going to copy across my headers from my other spreadsheet, and I'm just going to also, I might convert this to a table. Oops, which one is it? L. I'm going to convert this into a table. So just pick the whole table, L, and then Control T to convert to a table. And let's rename it while we're here too, and let's call this portfolio. Oops, I really can't spell portfolio. There we go. So now we've got a new table called portfolio in a new tab. Now, I'm just going to sort A to Z just for simplicity, and so that way when I copy across my other table, it will match up with all my data. So I'm not going to do this twice. There we go. So the ticker, as was before, right, we could pretty quickly get attributes off this company. So let's just go plus and we grab that, and you see it gives us a list again, right? So we want the ticker, we go down, ticker symbol, boom, there we go, and it's filled all of this in for us. Currency, I do like to track currency in my portfolio because I've got multiple different exchanges and different shares. In this one, obviously, we're only dealing with USD, so it will only be USD, but just in case you are dealing with the same problem as me, let's go plus, and then so you can go in here, currency, there we go, and it's pulled up, they're all USD. Now, thematic sector is something I use to try and group like shares into similar sort of categories, so that way it helps me with my sort of analysis and reporting and understanding what's going on. You could use, the more official standard sort of groupings that they use across all exchanges, but I find those too coarse in some areas and too specific in others. Like I find resources are way too specific, and I find other areas are way too generic. So I've actually made up my own, just for my own, I guess, my own understanding and how I like to group things. Feel free to go for it however you desire. So I'm just going to copy across my ones, and you'll get a feeling of how I do it. But obviously, you can do this entirely how you desire. So it's a manual process, obviously. So 3M, for example, commerce. ABV, I've called health. Ali Finance, I've called finance. Technology. I do have quite a lot of dividend ETFs, so I have them as a separate dividend category. Got some mobility. I quite like sort of EV vehicle sort of transport related stuff, blockchain, resources. So, but feel free to divide and conquer however you desire. You might sort of do it once and go, oh no, there's got too many in one category or not enough in some. So yeah, that's a really good way of doing it, which I don't mind. The other thing I do, which is manual as well, is I do track as well what the type of share is. Is it a stock or is it a ETF? Just I like to understand. Sometimes, for example, I'll want to just do a generic investment across. So, for example, EV vehicles, right? There's two big ETFs, which are Drive and Cars, which cover a wide range of EV type car makers and batteries and so forth. So I do invest in those, but I also do invest in like Tesla separately and GM and Rivian. I think I'm about to get some BYD. I think they're listed. So it's good for me. I do like tracking both, so I know which ones is which. And we'll see later when we do some filters and so forth. Now this probably is the most annoying. This next part is probably the most annoying part of the whole thing. Once you've done it, and you only have to do it once a year. There are web scraping ways of doing this, which I might cover in a separate video, because it's probably its own video in its own right, to be honest, of doing this. But basically, what I do is I track the previous 2 years of dividends. So I don't use a forecast yield, I use a trailing yield. You can do it different ways, and that's just the way I prefer to do it. So I have actually gone through and just, if you literally Google the share name that you're looking at and then dividend history, what you'll find is it's very, very easy to find a list of dividend payments for each share. So you'll see here what I've done for 2022. 3M paid $5.92, and in 2021, that's 2021, that's 2022, it paid $5.96. So I'm literally just about to, probably this afternoon, go through an update for 23. So I might even try some web scraping methods and see if I can do a little video. But this, probably is the most annoying part of the whole thing. But once you've done it once, it's done really, and only once a year you need to worry about it. So now, in terms of numbers of shares, we need to now do a little formula because obviously, as we know right from trades, I might have bought 3M 4 or 5 or 6 times. So we need to sum up how many times I've purchased 3M. So let's just do a little sum if. Now, the range that we're looking at is going to be this column here, which is share name, so trades share name. We're looking for, over in portfolio, we're looking for this particular value, which is 3M. And then the value that we want to sum is obviously the share shares column, right? So it's here, we go and down, and then see trade shares. So it's pretty straightforward. It's just summing, looking at the trades tab, the share name. It's looking at the share name from the portfolio tab, and then it's summing from the shares, how many shares we purchased from the trades tab, from the trades table. And there we go. So straight up, it's managed to, and obviously auto fill down, nice and neatly and efficiently. So now we've got the number of shares total that we've purchased for 3M, obviously capturing all of those different trades. Now, purchase cost, again, very, very similar, because we did, if you remember, we did track over here in trades the purchase cost. So that's why we do it over here, so we can sum up those values now, because obviously we purchased different shares, different parcels of that share at different values. So let's just go with sum if again, and this time we're now looking over again at the share name, and we are looking for the criteria we're looking for is the name of the company, but this time we are summing up from the purchase cost total. So let's go to the top. And let's grab that and then close the brackets, enter, and away we go. So now you can see what it's doing. It's summing from the share name, looking at the share name in the trades tab. It's looking over here to see which row I'm on, and then it's summing the purchase cost total. So that's the total cost of each one. So made up of different purchases. Now, current value is pretty straightforward, right? We can use some of our little stock shortcuts. So let's look at 3M. We could also go over here and look at market value per share if we wanted to. Or what we could do, let's keep it simple, we just literally do that, and then we get it from our list here. So the current value is going to be the price, which is here, but we need to also multiply by, you guessed it, the number of shares that we hold. So there we go. So that now gives us a current value and a purchase cost. I'm just going to reformat these columns to be currency with no decimal places and a dollar symbol. There we go. So looking pretty good. So we're almost there. So now the last one here we need to worry about now is just the yield. Now, because obviously a dividend per share amount is not useless, but it's not very helpful because it obviously doesn't take into account how much we paid for the share. So to work out the yield, all we need to do is we multiply, for 21, multiply the dividend per share we received in 2021, or we would have received, I should say, because we didn't necessarily receive it, multiplied by the number of shares that we have, and now we want to divide that by the purchase cost. So that's giving us the yield that we would have received, or did receive potentially, for that purchase cost that we made. So let's do that. Now we need to obviously convert that to be a decimal, so let's go into number, and let's make it 1 decimal place, I think is probably sufficient. Oh, I should actually convert that to be percentage, shouldn't I? Percentage, 1 decimal place. And there we go. So we do the same thing for the 2022. So it's the 2022 dividends per share multiplied by how many shares we have divided by the purchase cost. And then let's do the same thing here. Format the cells, make it percentage with 1 decimal place, I think is sufficient. And then, oops, I obviously didn't do that properly. Percentage, 1 decimal place. Okay, now what have I done wrong here? divided by that. That looks pretty good actually. Why is this not working? Format cells. Let me just turn back to general for a second. I'm just going to do this quickly. What is going on? Percentage. Why does it not like that? Is there an error somewhere on the row? That's very interesting. Let's have a little dig into this. What is going on? Yep, and of course, because I am, this is a good lesson actually, because you've always got to check. And it's good in this case because it was really obvious, right? Can anyone see what I've done wrong? Instead of using a multiplied, I've used an ampersand. So it's trying to group the two together. So if you change that to be a multiplied, there we go, fixed. So yeah, always, I can't overemphasize enough how important it is to double check your calculations, and we'll do some at the end because you really want to make sure that you're, when you're doing a spreadsheet or a dashboard, that it does actually it is correct and accurate. And obviously, you're responsible for your own accuracy. I'm not by any way suggesting this is 100% correct, but yeah, it's a good example there where we could have easily have missed that and it carried through. But obviously, we spotted it because we did the ampersand. Okay, so that's this table done, which is great. So we're now ready to go. And you'll see too, sometimes I just highlight something because it's something special happened, like, for example, it didn't pay any dividends in that year or something weird happened. Sometimes I will do a little comment or a highlight, you know what I mean? So it depends a little bit on what you do, but there'll often be, a reason why you want to just flag something in there, which is fine. Okay, so now the third really important one here is we need to worry about is our dividend tab. So it's called dividends, or no, dividends. So now in here, what we're going to do is we're going to capture the dividends that we've actually received from our portfolio. So this is, I guess, an actual income we receive. So again, you'll be able to go into your broker's portal and you'll definitely be able to download in some format, probably CSV, a list of dividends that you've received. Mine comes in a pretty handy CSV format. I use IBKY. And it requires a little bit of data cleansing to get it into the right format, but it's not too bad. I use pay date, obviously not ex-dividend date, and it does come with ticker, but I just simply use the the function of stocks to get the share name, which is useful, and then quantity of shares. That's all automatic. That comes in automatically now. The only one that I do differently is I do add this in. You'll see this why later. So I do a year-month. So if you pick on and you'll see why we do this later. So we go plus year. If it helps in sorting things out in the pivot tables. So we go year of that, and we do, let's close the brackets, do ampersand, and then we're going to get a little dash in there, another ampersand, and then do month, and then open brackets, and that will give us a pretty quick way of getting year dash month, which you'll see we'll need later on. As we progress through. I'm just going to get rid of the formatting there. Oops. Oh, it's okay. That's fine. So now we need to convert that into a table. So let's go to the end, Control T to make it a table, and away we go. And let's call this table dividends. So we keep everything nice and organized, which is very important. So I think we're good to go. So once you've got your table of dividends organized, you should be good to go. So now we've done oops, sorry, pressing the wrong little button there. There we go. Now let's make the dashboard. No, sorry, let's actually make a pivot table tab. I'll bring that to the end. And let's make also a dashboard tab where we're going to put all of our nice looking charts and so forth in. So pivot table. Okay, so now let's start working on the actual pivot table. So the first one we want to do, if you saw from the start, we want to create one that shows us the a chart showing the share name, or the ticker, and also the purchased and the current value of each holding. So let's do a new little pivot table, and we're going to grab this from portfolio. So we're going to I can actually just type in portfolio, and then there we go, because that's the handy way. You can obviously go and select the range if you want to. So what we need is ticker, we need thematic sector, we need purchase cost, and current value, and away we go. So we've seen the changes because it's grouped by ticker. We want to change the order, so let's move thematic sector down here to be on the top, and now you can see pretty quickly what it's done is it's grouped each of the shares by ticker, but by the thematic type that we used earlier. So blockchain, commerce, dividend, finance, health, mobility, index, and so forth. So obviously you'll have your whatever you've chosen as your categories there. So that's a really nice looking little table, quite handy. So let's now go and do on the pivot table analyze. Let's make a pivot chart. We want it to be a column chart. Now let's format this a little bit. So let's go into here. Let's get rid of the field buttons because they just make it look a bit messy. Let's also make it, what type do you want to use? Probably, I think 14 looks quite good, doesn't it? Type 14, but obviously your Excel might be different to mine, but type 14 to me looks pretty good. Let's now go into format. I'm going to make the background black, so I quite like a black dashboard. Let's make these all be white so they pop out a little bit better. And we should probably add into a header. So chart title above the chart, and let's call this capital versus current, or maybe purchase versus current. It can be whatever you desire to reflect what this is. So let's make it actually an 18. Let's do 20. Make it white, make it bold, nice. That looks pretty good. So what else you want to do here? We also want to change, see how the axis has just reverted to a non, I guess, type of data. So we can actually go into over here and go value field settings, and we go into number format, and we can choose currency. So let's get rid of the decimal places and go OK, and let's go into this one, value field settings, number format, currency, get rid of those. And then we go, okay, now you see it's converted it to a nice currency. Let's make this all the way across, and let's put this up the top. That looks pretty good, right? Pretty happy with that. So let's now Control X to cut that, and let's put that into the dashboard. So here we go. We've got our first chart, which is pretty cool. Let's move that across maybe to about there. Looking pretty good. There we go. I like that. Looking good. Okay. Squish this up a little bit, and please feel free to play with formatting as much as you like. I'm not going to do too much in this video because it's obviously it can burn a bit of time, but we'll make it look as sort of good as we can quickly. And I do have a bit of OCD so with these things, but yeah. So obviously feel free to spend extra time on doing it. So that's pretty good. Now let's have a look. The next one we want to do probably be good to have a look at, wouldn't it? The historic dividend yield. So let's go insert pivot table. Now we're going to go over it from portfolio again, portfolio or whatever you've called it. And this time we want to do thematic sector again. Let's tick that. We want to grab ticker, but this time we want to grab the yield from 21 and 22 in there. So it looks like it's pretty good, but let's do the same formatting thing over here. So it's in the a good format. So value field settings, number format, percentage. Let's do 1 decimal place. And do it on the bottom one. Value field setting, number format, percentage 1. And then away we go. Okay, it looks pretty good. So let's now do a chart, pivot chart. We want to do the same as before. Let's convert it to be type, we used 14, wasn't it? 14? Yeah, type 14. Let's get rid of the buttons, pivot chart analyze, field buttons. Let's hide all. Looking pretty good. Now I'm just going to grab that now, Control X, and paste it over here. So we can kind of get it to be the same size as this. Which is about like that. Is that too big? Slightly. I made them slightly too big. Can I fit it in? No, I'll have to shrink them both a little bit. Let's shrink it just both a tiny little bit. There we go. Enough space for a heading. Let's move that up there. Yeah, look at that. Perfect. So now let's format this as the same as we did the other one. We'll grab that across to about there. And look, obviously spend more time doing it than I'm doing now because you want it to look and feel nice. Move that up to here. Let's actually add in a chart title, and I'll move that down a little bit. So let's call this dividend yield. And you could do like 2021 versus 2022 because I'm about to do 23, obviously. And we had that at, was it 20 font? I think we used 20 font. Let's make it white text. There we go. Looking pretty good. Let's move that up to there. Let's make that white text as well. This is white, and this is white. Looking pretty good. Pretty happy with that. Now, obviously, depending on how many shares you've got in your portfolio, and this is just my USD holdings, my full one does look a lot more, shall we say, busy. What we can do is we can actually build this little slice. In fact, first of all, let's just format so it's all black, right? Let's make everything black. There we go. That looks a bit more, I don't know, sophisticated, shall we call it? So let's add in a slicer. So let's go to the pivot table, and we'll click either. It doesn't really matter which one. Let's go into over here, and let's go insert slicer. Now we want our slicer to have ticker. It's pretty much all, not ticker, sorry. We want it to have thematic sector is what we pretty much want it to have. So there we go. Now, a little trick here, what you can do, we want it to be, you can format this, but because we know our dashboard's going to be black, or maybe yours is blue or green or whatever you like. If you go up here, duplicate, and let's just call this the cat slicer style, and I'm going to make the background black, fill to be black because I want it to match up. I hit OK. Okay, let's now change that to be the cat. And you see what it's done is it's formatted it to be with a black background. And obviously you can mess around with that formatting as much as you like. You can go in here and you can modify. You might want to say the header, let's make that white, for example, white text. I think I need to make that white. Where are we? White, yep. Okay, and it should pop up. Yeah, there we go. Yep. So mess around with that as much as you like. The other thing too is probably useful while we're here is report connections. Let's grab both pivot tables, and that way it will filter on both. You'll see why in a second. That's important. So let's Control X, grab that, stick that over here. Let's put that in there, and we can probably tighten it up a little bit, maybe to there, and let's move these across a little bit just so it all lines up. And obviously, you'd want to, format the borders and things to be the same, or however you feel. But we're doing this quick so we can get this video as short as possible. So what's great now, if we click on Dividend, you'll see it filters both of these to be dividends. So it's really quick now. Oh, okay, the dividend holdings, I've got JEPI is my biggest holding. And now what we need to do as well is you need to make sure these line up, which hasn't really happened by default here. But if you are a little bit careful, you can see now, it's pretty good actually. So now we can see JEPI is our biggest holding in this category, and you can go straight down and see 21.22 dividend yield. Looks paying good yield. So look, big holding, decent yield, I'm pretty happy, do you know what I mean? So, oh look, maybe, SCHD, I definitely want to invest more into that over the next 12 months, but dividend yield's a bit lower, but obviously dividend growth's a key factor there. QYLD, bit of a dividend trap. I've lost down a bit on my capital, and the yields dropped a bit as well. So it's a really quick way of looking across your portfolio. Obviously, to get it back, you can just shift click everything, and then there you go, back to there. So really quick way of filtering and sort of drilling down. What we can do as well, let's do another slicer. Insert a slicer. Now let's do currency. In fact, we're only going to have USD, but if you had, say, USD and Euros and GBP, Great British Pounds, and whatever else, you can use that as well. But let's do type as our second filter here, because we know we've got some are ETFs and some are stocks, right? So let's now use our little cat slicer type. Let's go into report connections. Let's connect it up to both pivot tables. Let's Control X that one. Let's bring that over here. And you see now we can put that below that quite nicely and stick that in there. Look at that, it's pretty good. So now we can filter by, these are all our stocks, and these are all of our ETFs. So a really quick way of exploring in detail. Now, I'm actually going to make a little bit more space just move these across a little bit, and just grab these two, and just put that to there. Okay, so bottom left here, what I've done on my dashboard is just got a purchase versus current total column. So it just helps to understand sort of where you are. So let's do a new little, a new one. So insert pivot table, Now we want to go from portfolio again, so you just type in portfolio. You can obviously manually select it as well. Portfolio. Now this time we want to do the purchase cost and current value, but we also want to do, that's fine for now, that's perfect. So now we have paid that much to purchase, and that's our current value of our holdings. Now if we do a pivot chart, we want it to be a column, that's good. Let's now just go into get rid of the buttons again, hide all buttons. We don't need a head, don't need a legend, I suspect. This axis is a little bit misleading, so let's just reformat the axis. Let's make it to be 0 as our minimum. Bit of scale. We also need to do the, where are we? Pivot tile, value field settings, number format. Let's make that to be currency. Get rid of decimal places. Okay, and let's do the same here. So right click, value field settings, number format, currency, no decimal places. Okay, and now it's converted it to be money. Looks pretty good. Let's Control X that, bring it over to the dashboard. Let's make it black. Let's make this white and the footer white. Probably don't even need that, but that's okay. We could save space if we wanted to and get rid of that, but that's okay. So let's now squish it up a little bit and let's make that fit in here. Now, let's make it match up perfectly. There we go. So it's pretty cool, right? So now it's showing us, you know, we're slightly below for our USD holdings, at least where we purchased them. Obviously, we've been getting dividends as well. So what's good now, obviously here, if we filter here, you see dividend, it filters these, but it hasn't changed this, right? So because we haven't gone into here and enter our slicer and report connections, and we need to now add our new pivot table. So we need to add it to that one, and we now need to add that as well to this one. So now it includes that within our slicing. So now when I pick everything again, you see it's got it to there, and if I look at, say, blockchain, for example, I've made some amazingly, no one was more surprised than I was. We've made some money in this space. So you can see pretty quickly, you can mess around and see where you are. Like technology, I'm up about $2.5 grand. So yeah, a good little way of you know, total value and individual holdings and their yields. So really, really good. So look, I think we're probably 3/4 through now. So the other one, obviously, there's not much point having a dividend tracking dashboard if it doesn't actually track dividends. So let's now have a look at that side of things. Let's move the dashboards tab to the front. Now, this next one, let's have a look. Let's do a new pivot table. Now this time we're going to go from our dividends table because we want to look at dividends. Now we want to do, let's first of all do a amount of dividends by year. Let's do a little one by year, for example. So what we want to do is we want to do, let's grab pay date and let's grab amount. So that's showing us now using and Excel's pretty good the way it does pivot tables. It breaks it out by years, quarters, months, and the actual date, which is quite useful. And you know, there's lots of ways of doing this, but we're just going to get rid of quarters. We're going to get rid of month, and we're going to get rid of pay date, and just leave years, because all we want to do is look at the total amount of dividends received by year. We will format this to be, again, number format, to be currency, get rid of the decimal places, just so it's neat and tidy. There we go. Now, if we do a pivot chart, should we do a clustered column? Yeah, let's do a clustered column. So, and let's get rid of the field buttons. Let's get rid of total, we don't need that. We could change this to be total dividends by year, perhaps. Call it whatever you like. So obviously we'll keep adding as we get dividends in 2024, it will start adding. We should also make that to be 20. That's the same as the others. Bold it, make it white, and let's make the whole thing black. Format, let's go black, shape fill. Let's make these white so we can see it on the dark text. And there we go, looking pretty good. Let's Control X that, and let's put that back over here on the dashboard. There we go. So now it's giving us a pretty good summary of dividends that were received by year. So hopefully, well, well, I'm sure it will, but hopefully over time, this number will keep increasing and we get a nice little trend as to how our dividend payments are increasing. Now remember, these are actual dividends that have been paid, that were received, whereas this over here was sort of more of a historic view. So this is actual dividends we've actually received from our portfolio. So I'll leave it there for a moment. Now, the next one we go back to pivot table is, let's have a look now at dividends received by month. So let's do a new little pivot table, and we can do dividends again as our table. Now this time we want to do, let's do, we're going to use our month year. It's actually year month, but that's okay. But we haven't changed the name, month year, but it's obviously year month. Labels, and let's do then the amount we received as the total. Now let's change this to be, oops, okay, let's do that again, amount. Let's hit the wrong button. Let's go value field settings. Let's make that to be currency, get rid of decimal places we don't need. Now, here too, we want to also do sort options. So manual is what we want it to be, manual sort options, because you see, and this is the tricky thing is, and you'll see, and maybe if someone's got a better way of doing this, please let me know, because if you sort by pay date, you'll just get like way too many columns that you're worrying about. And if you do it by months, for example, it will give you months grouped the same over different years. So, but if someone's got a better way, please let me know, because I'm sure there is. And I found some, but they're, shall we say, way more complicated. So let's just grab, manually going to move some of these around. So let's move that down to there. Let's just grab that down to there, just so we've got it in the right sort of order, if you know what I mean. And then we need to move, so we started investing in April, which was correct. And then we need to move number 10 down, number 11 down, and number 12 down. And now you see we've got the order pretty much spot on. Now, let's do a pivot chart. Now, I think here, we could do a bar chart. Let's do a bar chart, I think. Yeah, let's do a bar chart. I think it will be the best one. To area. No, bar chart I think looks better. So column chart. Let's get rid of the buttons. For the buttons, hide all. Let's call this dividends by month. But again, call it whatever you like. We don't need the total because it's kind of self-explanatory. Let's Control X that. Let's bring it over here, stick it in here. And I think this is pretty good. Pretty happy with that, I think. I think that looks pretty good. Yep, let's make it black. Black. Let's make the heading to be font 20. It's white and bold, so it matches up. Let's make that white. Let's make that white. And then what we should see over time is we should obviously see the dividend by month amount increasing over time, which is pretty good. Let's do it out to about there. So, and obviously it does fluctuate a lot by month. Some dividends, some stocks pay, annually, some pay every 6 months, some pay monthly, depending on which ones you're into. So that's pretty good. Make that a bit smaller maybe. So I'm pretty happy with that. I think that looks pretty good. That looks pretty good. Okay, so let's go back to our pivot tables now. What else do we want to add? Let's also add in a dividends received by share. So let's do that. So let's go Insert, Pivot Table. Now let's grab it from dividends. Do OK. Now we want to do ticker and we want to do amount. So, and let's format this to be format value. Let's make it to be currency. Let's get rid of the decimal places. We don't really need that. Pretty good. So now we've got, if we do now a new table, insert pivot chart, the cluster column is probably as good as anything, to be honest. That's pretty good. Let's do that. Yeah, that's pretty good. In fact, I'm just going to add a little upgrade here. We're going to add in, no, we'll leave it. That's fine. We'll leave it. 1 second. Let me just quickly check something. I've had one of my little kittens come up to me. 1 second. Well, I just quickly check. Okay. the kitten issue has been resolved. So let's now grab this one, bring it over here to the dashboard. Oops, let's not paste it over the top, let's paste it there. So let's down here, let's obviously get rid of the buttons again. So I think let's get in the way. We don't need, let's call this dividend by stock or by share, however you want to call it. So we don't need the total really, it's a bit irrelevant. Let's format, make it black. Let's make the heading to be 20. So it's organized and consistent, bold and white. Let's make that to be white, and let's make that to be white. So what this is showing us is how many dividends we've received for each stock in our portfolio, total received. Doesn't take into account things like how many stocks we have or anything else. It's just a simple little thing that I find useful to be able to go, okay, what is actually contributing to my portfolio? So I'm just going to format that and make it to be, where are we? Let's make it text direction to be that way. Yep, okay, that looks better. So and obviously they don't all fit in, which is fine, but you can hover over it and see. So BST, which is the BlackRock Technology ETF, is paid about 1,100. You see I've got a massive contribution here from JEPI. That'll be QYLD pretty much guaranteed. What's that at the end there? XYLD, it's probably RLYD probably. Yep. So you can see where your dividend contributions toward your portfolio are coming from. It's just useful to, I guess, get a head around absolute return. Obviously, doesn't take into account the fact that you've got a lot more. You can see here, my biggest holding is in JEPI, so you'd expect that, given that it's a high dividend yielding ETF, that's paid me the most towards my dividends received. So pretty good. Now we could add, what we could actually do is we could add in filters and slices like we did over here, so we could slice it down, or we could even do the top 25. You could do different, different things around that as well if you wanted to make it, more. But let's keep this simple, and obviously, please feel free to explore as you desire. Worth noting too that these slices won't change these tables because they're from a different pivot table. We could use like data models and different things, but let's just keep it simple and just for the purpose of this. So in my other portfolio, my full one, I do actually have a slicer around month, so I can actually filter down by what's paid per month. So you can very easily add a slicer in that looks at payments by month, so you can see what's paid you dividends this month. It's pretty easy to do if you follow the same process as we did over there. So the last pivot table we want to do over here is we want to do a running total, right? So in the other one we noticed we had that running total of dividends received. So pretty easy to do. So what we do is we go over here, insert pivot table, and we want it again to be from the dividends table. Now this time we want to do, we want our custom month here, and we also need the amount that we've received. Now we need to also do a little bit of formatting here just to get the order correct. Let's make sure it's on manual, which it is, which is great. So let's just move these around a little bit tedious, but it takes like 2 seconds to do it. 12, and let's move that down to there. Let's move 10 down to there. 11 down to there. 12 down to there. There we go. That looks pretty good. Now, for some amount, we need to, obviously this is just doing per month, right? So that's not what we want. We want it to be cumulative. So we go into here and we go into here. Now, show values as, we go into, instead of no calculation, we want it to actually be a running total. So running total in, and let's change the format while we're here as well. So let's make it currency. Let's get rid of the decimal places. Go OK. And now you see what it's doing is it's giving us a running total. So you can see here pretty quickly, we had $33, which is correct, the first month, but instead of $204 we received, it's now adding on those onto there. So it's a really, really good way of, I guess, a running total, a cumulative total, right, of how many dividends we actually received. And you can check it too, right, because the 12,193 should match up with the total that we've received over here. So that's good. Always do little checks too. I'm not doing too many checks because I've done this a few times, but please make sure you always do sense checks, and I'll definitely, on my main portfolio, I've done a lot of little checks and things to make sure, check individual, trades, make sure that all matches up and everything. Okay, so I think I quite like the markers actually. Let's go with that. Let's do some formatting, get rid of the buttons. Let's get rid of that, was kind of irrelevant. Let's call this cumulative dividends. Let's make it black. There we go. Let's now format the text. So we want it to be 20, bold and white. Let's make that white. Let's make that white. Looks pretty good. Let's Control X that, bring it over to our dashboard, and look at that. It's a little home for it right there. That's pretty good, hey? Looks good. And in fact, I might even just squish this up a little bit too, because we don't, it's, let's just call it dividends by year. Oops. Let's just get rid of that total so the heading fits a bit neater. That looks better. And let's squish that across a little bit to there, move it down a tiny little bit. Looks pretty good. And we could also do things like, if you want to, you can do things like format data series. Let's change the marker. I quite like a bigger marker. And let's make it, yeah, even bigger. Let's go bigger. Let's make it like 3. Looks pretty good. Yeah, look at that. I love it. Okay, that looks good. So now that is looking pretty good. Hey, so obviously put your heading up here. Let's do a text box so we can move it around. Text box, and let's call it the Financial Cat Dashboard. Let's make it white. Let's make it like big. 24. Obviously, I could move things around and make it look a bit nicer and fit a bit better. But look at that. I think we are pretty much there. So, I would recommend playing around with some slices in here if you wanted to delve down into this in a bit more detail. And otherwise, look, I think we're there. It's pretty good. Everything seems to work well. And looks good. So look, please, if you've enjoyed this video, please drop me a subscribe. I'd really appreciate it. Obviously a very small channel, and I'm doing this really just for fun, so it helps motivate me getting subscribers. It's one of those little things, and it's good fun. So please, also if you've got any questions or something I did wasn't clear, or you want me to explain things in more detail, look, I'm more than happy to answer any questions or thoughts. And if you're going on this journey as well, I'd love to hear from you what you're doing, and if you've got a different way of tracking things, absolutely love to hear from you, and thoughts, questions, ideas, comments. If there's better ways of doing it in Excel, I know there's obviously we can use data models and different things, but I'm trying to keep it as simple as possible, because I figure those that have those skills already probably have already built their own dashboards. So I'm kind of targeting this more towards people that maybe don't have sort of a strong background in Excel. But if there are any sort of more, I guess, shortcuts, simpler ways of doing something, please let me know. I'd love to let everyone know in the comment section, please. But otherwise, look, I think we're good to go. You can do things like reformat these as well. So rather than calling it that, we can reformat all of these things as well. Change the name. If we go back into our pivot tables, we can actually rename things in here. So you can do things like available field settings. Is it here? Yeah. So here, see, you just do purchase cost instead. Oops, purchase cost, just to make it all look a bit neat and things like that. You just play around and make things, work for you. Obviously your borders and everything else. But yeah, look, I hope you enjoyed the video. Looking forward to a really exciting 2024. Gee, I've said it already. 2024 investing year. And wish you all the best. And look forward to chatting with you all soon. Thanks all. Bye.